Are you looking for new books to read? Do you like finding a new special author? Are you tired of the same old books from the same old authors? Well then, welcome to Discovered Wordsmiths, a podcast where you can hear from fantastic new authors. Join Stephen Schneider as he finds and talks to authors you may not know, but authors that have worked hard to write great new books. Hear about their book and why you should check it out. So sit back and listen to today's Discovered Wordsmith.
All right, so today on Discovered Wordsmiths, we have Mary Elizabeth. So Mary, it's great to see you. How are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. So glad to be on here with you. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Great, no problem. It's good to see you, talk to you. So I want to find out all about you and your book. Let's start a little bit with you. Tell us who you are and where you live, a little bit about your life outside of writing.
Okay. I live in Northeast Nashville, so I'm really close to Music City. And
I was just there, literally this weekend.
Oh, really? Were you? You picked a terrible weekend to be here with all the rain.
But I was inside at an author conference, a really good author conference.
Oh, awesome. Where were you in Nashville?
One of the Drury Hotel.
Oh, okay. All right. Awesome. Cool. Yes. I had one of my closest friend from college was here this weekend on a birthday thing with 6 couples. And I was I'm like, oh, this weather is just, we drove into Nashville yesterday to meet up with her. And I couldn't believe how many people were downtown, even in the rain. We were just like, this city is so crazy.
It was raining all weekend. I looked down. Oh, hey, look, it's raining again. Well, I'm going to go back in and enjoy some free coffee.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea, right?
So anyway.
Yeah, I am a wife and a mother of 3 children, and my kids are super spread out. So it makes for, it's never boring. Let's just say that. There's always something going on, right? All the way from senior in college to an 8-year-old. So, and wow. I'm also am a children's author. I have an award-winning children's series that was actually inspired by my son, who came super late in life. So there was no plans for it. It was I didn't get that memo saying, hey, do you want to get pregnant at this age and have a baby in the middle of your life? You're already kind of done with that stuff, So all 3 of my children inspire me, absolutely. But he definitely was very heavily involved in the inspiration for all of this and the motivation for it. And I am also an advocate for special needs and disabilities because I have 2 kids on the spectrum. And there have been some things that have happened in our life that I ended up going to get certified to be able to do this kind of work, not only for my kids, but for other families as well. And it's so cool how it's just transpired into so many different things that I get to do that are a part of my life. And I really love it. And I love being an advocate for various different things. And it's so funny because every time I turn around, I was like, oh gosh, okay, there's something else we need to advocate about. It just there's no boundaries or ends for it. It seems like, especially today in our world. I'm also a live streamer. So I co-founded and co-host 2 shows that are on. We now stream off Amazon Live, but we also stream out to Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and YouTube. And it's Writers Corner Live TV is the first one. So it's all about the writing world and features interviews and things like that. And the other is Special Needs TV. So that features everything about that world, interviews and information and resources and stuff like that.
Beautiful.
I love.
We'll include links to that in the show notes. So everyone can go see it.
And actually, if you go to my website, maryejackson.com, there's links there. The links for the books, there's links to go to the shows, and there's also, I've got a couple of videos on there for families or parents or caregivers who are, new to the journey of a child having a diagnosis or feeling lost, or, I'm just going to I will continue adding information there. For folks, and I'm working on some free PDFs and things that people can download for that.
Excellent.
What to have lined up, getting ready for your IEP meeting in school, and families really need to be educated on what their rights are, because we do have rights. And we feel like we don't these days, right? I feel like those words are being taken away from us. But
Right.
legally, there's a lot of rights that families and caregivers and people don't know they have for their child. So that journey's
Which
kind of
I think, sorry to interrupt, I think has gotten better. It's still needed, and I'm glad people like you are doing that. My wife, I mean, we only met like 4 or 5 years ago, but her one son has autism, and she
Mm.
had a very difficult time in the late 90s with the school because of that. And things have changed and gotten a whole lot better compared to that. But, well, it's too late for him. So I'm glad that people are speaking out and helping make those changes.
There are some changes, but I'll tell you, Stephen, it is so still in the dark and so backwards in so many ways. So there's so much work to do. I'm an advisor on it's a global for profit. You should tell her to look this up called Billion-Strong. And you can join and be a supporter. You don't have to financially support, you can be a supporter of what they're doing. And they're an organization that makes sure that companies and I do mean globally, companies globally hire folks with disabilities and challenges. And it's a great organization, and there's a lot of heart and soul that goes with what they're doing. So it's a great thing.
I will include some links to that also.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Deborah Rue. She's the leader. She's like this. Well, let's see, Brigetti, my producer and co-host, and I call her Mama Bear on steroids. So she's like, she's really working hard out there. So I've done some songwriting. Let's see. I'm the voice on, it's a new app that's coming out called Sport Together. It's starting out in the Netherlands and Denmark and everything. And so they're going to be bringing it over to the United States. Um,
Uh,
so yeah, that, and I love to be at the beach. I'm from Florida, Orlando.
is
So
your Nashville?
I am here in the rain and the clouds. And my 17-year-old just got done with production all weekend. She was in Peter and the Starcatcher. It's about how Peter became Peter Pan, and it rained.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. And it was outside, but we were under a pavilion, thank goodness. But it rained you were here, right? It would rain and rain
Yeah,
and rain and rain and rain, and then it would stop at night. But it was still all wet,
right.
and so, but anyways, so I like the sunshine any moment of any day. I'll take that, you know. So
Right. So, okay. So you've got a few things going on. You've got a few interests
yeah.
that you do. So the writing, why did you want to put writing in with all of that?
Well, I've been writing my whole life, and my love. This is so funny. I'm a poet by heart, right? But I've never published any poetry. I have not been brave enough to do that. That sounds kind of weird, I know, but I just haven't done it yet. I want to though. But my the children's book got my foot in the door for writing, and it was really an interesting way that it happened. But it like I said, my son inspired it. It was just divinely given. It was inspired. It had this instant, like the story came, one of those moments. And I was in recovery with my son. We had a very, the end of the pregnancy was very scary. My recovery was really touch and go and serious. And so it was after all that. And I tell this story, and it's really true how it happened. I was in this place of just, thank God I'm here and he's here and we're okay. And that's where the story came. And it was intended to kind of go along the lines, his lifeline. And now he's 8. But the first one is for littles, like newborns. And then it goes, the second one's for toddlers. And the third one we just released June 2nd is for ages 4 to 8. And it's like that awkward silliness, funky, weird time that children go through at that period of time where they're growing and changing, and they're always growing and changing, but it particularly focuses on that time. And I like to rhyme because children love rhyming. It helps them to, they learn easier that way. They're able to retain. And so rhyming is just kind of the way it all came out. And it's the first book is called Perfectly Precious Poohlicious. And I know the word sounds funny, but what it is a play on words, right? And children love silly words. Dr. Seuss is obviously one of my biggest I love Dr. Seuss because, and I always did even as a kid, because all the words don't make sense. They're silly, funny. If you get a
Right.
kid laughing, as soon as you have a child laughing, they're disarmed in the way they feel safe, and I can learn. They can soak in that information so much more, So I included in these books I am pages, and they are there to inspire that conversation early, that language early for families and children to start learning those empowering tools of I am and I can do and you are. And it's very important. I think we got to start our kids early on that positive language, because think about it, Stephen, how would your life have been? I've thought about my life. If I had been given these tools very young in life, how different would my life be? How different would my path have gone if I had somebody actually there helping me gain this empowerment early in life? And the cool thing I think about it is that language is free, so a child can have it with them always. So if they're having a bad day, they can talk themselves down or out from that place. So I've chosen, my path for writing has really grown that way. I have a middle grade reader coming out October 19th for ages 8 to 12, and it focuses on, it does have an anti-bullying aspect to it, but it focuses on the redemption of these kids figuring out how guilty they feel for what they did, but they seek forgiveness, and they seek to forgive themselves, to be forgiven, forgive themselves, and to help their friends be better people in life. How can we do this differently moving forward and inspire each other instead of tearing each other down? So I've chosen for children with writing to write empowering works for children and families that can be involved. Because like the book coming out in October called Cheers from Heaven with my co-author Thornton Klein, it has got tools in the back that can be used in schools for kids individually, in classrooms, in groups, a whole class and the whole school itself. So I think that right now, more than anything, we've got to get that positive language going for children and families. I think it's so super
Agreed.
important. So
So these aren't just focused on kids and families on the spectrum. These are overall for
right,
any family kid.
right. These particular are, now I've got an 8 series that I've got the first one written for, and that is going to be for all kids, but there will be a focus on children who have challenges. And like my role as an advocate has changed over the years since I started writing. So the things so I have books that will be focused on kiddos with challenges and social skills and, mindfulness. And I just did a mental health expo on Saturday with 2 other people, and the focus was families and children. And my focus is helping children to self-regulate and understand their emotions and be able to, like, if they're in a red zone, be able to come back to a green zone. Like Zones of Regulation is one of my very favorite books for families and kids. And I use it with my own children. I've used affirmations with my kids. And I've also given them outlets as they've grown up. My girls, they're both very artistic, but those outlets of, okay, if you can't talk to me about how you're feeling, then let's write it out or draw it out for me, or turn on the music and run around like crazy until you feel better. Some kind of positive outlet for them that feels safe. And then once they do whatever it is physically they have to do to feel better, writing or drawing or singing or dancing or running or throwing basketballs, or, then they can come back and go, oh, okay, now I feel better. Or, wow, I was so upset about that. And it was such a big deal that now I can see that it's smaller than what I thought it was. And I'm okay now, but it's also a focus. My writing is also about trying to help children accept who they are. That's one of the themes in the books I have, is accept who you are, however you came into this world, because however you came into this world really is okay. The world tries to make it not okay. You have autism,
Right.
you're in a wheelchair, you have Down syndrome, so you must be broken. And that's so far from the truth,
Agreed. I mean, I'm bald. I mean, dealing with that alone is enough for me, let alone some of these other issues. And I'm not trying to make light of any of this. So don't, nobody take it that way. I'm just, even people who, look normal or look better or whatever. Everybody has their own issues, and it affects everybody different. And I love what you were saying earlier about giving these kids these words, because one of the things, because I write middle grade, and I'm also working
Okay.
on some talks for parents for middle grade kids. But one of the things I see with my own kids, their friends as they were growing up, and the world in general, is kids they don't know how to handle anything. The littlest thing will just set them off, and they cocoon up, and they can't deal with it. And there's
Mhm.
such a high level of anxiety and depression amongst 19-year-olds. And I'm like, are you kidding me? When I was 19, man, I was, so
Right.
again, I
That's a
joke
good
about my
point.
baldness, and that's such a small little issue, but I think that type of issue would have some major impact on kids nowadays. Oh my gosh, I'm going bald at 22. I can't handle this. So I think what you're doing is super great.
Oh, thank you. And it's true. Stephen, we're in such a time right now for our kids. I mean, I watched my daughter come home from college last year, like so many families did across the country and our globe, right? And I watched my college daughter and my high school daughter just, I mean, even with all the tools that we use, they're still human, they're still normal. They're just still kids trying to make it through the world. They're faced with things that you and I will never had to face when we were kids growing up. I'm not sure what year you were born, but I do know never had we had any of this go on. And so I did a series on Zoom back last year for a period of time, parenting through quarantine, and I got parents to come on, and we talked about what was working for them in their homes with their children and what wasn't working, and let's share tips and ideas with each other. And so for my girls, what I did was I had to process how I felt. Those panic feelings at nighttime. You probably had them. I think all of us adults did. Are we going to wake up tomorrow morning and is something part of the planet going to be blown off? Because, and I'm not trying to be dramatic, but seriously, every day it was like something else and something else, and even that's what's happening now. For our world, but I had to remember to compose myself and deal with how I was feeling so that I could be strong and supportive for my girls. And even my son, and I could help guide them through, okay, we're going through all of this right now. So we have to focus on what are our choices that we have. Well, we have choices about how we feel about things that are happening right now and how we deal with them and what we let affect us. And the choices that we also have is where we put our focus. Let's focus on being creative or schoolwork or whatever we do, and let's kind of put almost like a bubble around us. And then this is where we concentrate and we let the world stay out there. And that seemed to really help my girls be able to, when they were having those moments of, to be able to come back and go, okay, it's going to be okay. At least right now in this moment, it's okay. You know,
Nice.
so
And what age group are you targeting these books at again?
Well, now I have books for littles, okay? Like the series that I have goes from newborn to age 8. Then the middle grade reader, is age 8 to 12, of course. And so I have one written for older, but I haven't published it yet. It's not finished.
Okay.
So what I'll say is that I'm part of two collaborative anthologies that have just released in August. One is about being an entrepreneur and the journey of entrepreneurs. And the other, which is so prevalent to right now, I think also in life, is called Invisible, No More Invincible, Forevermore. And that's about the journeys of feeling invisible and what we overcame. There are 29 of us women in this book to feel invincible in our lives. And this book is so valid right now in the sense of self care is such a buzzword right now, right? We're all very much needing to self care. Everyone needs to take care of themselves better than we have been doing. And part of that is being able to talk about the things that maybe you've buried, maybe are your wounds, maybe you're dragging around a bag behind you, maybe are keeping you from moving forward in your life. But knowing that you can hopefully find someone in your life to talk to about them so you can get to a place of healing. So you're not carrying all that around with you, because it is so crippling for a lot of people, isn't it? Holding on to that stuff. And this is Suicide Prevention Month. And so one of our focuses with the book was to hopefully reach others so that they don't feel like that's their only choice in life, because it isn't someone's only choice in life. There's always got to be an answer or outlet somehow, and I don't know, I don't have all the answers, but um, I lost someone recently, a family member, to this. And I grew up in a household where we talked about everything. And I'm trying to teach my children, let's talk about it. Even if you can't verbally say it, just write it down on paper. Hand me a note, write it down, throw it away, rip it up. I don't care if that makes you feel better. At least you're not carrying it around in here, you know? And as well as I do, like you said, at the drop of a hat, children's emotions can go from 0 to 1,000. And it's like, whoa, hey, you were just okay. What happened? The wind shifted and now you're freaking out, And so,
Yeah.
and so for us adults, we're like, oh my gosh, we're on this boat with our kids, right? So we're trying to steady the boat as they're freaking
Right.
out. The waves are crashing. So I just think it's really important for us to give them those tools, even if they're just a couple, to help them, because something's better than nothing.
And, and it sounds like there's a lot here, not just something. And I think
Yeah.
and I think starting younger is good because they need to develop this as they grow. I mean, just all the way back, Susie getting her pigtails pulled because the other little boy wants the glue, all the way back to
Right.
there, and dealing with that. I can see how important that is, and especially when you were talking about people on the spectrum. Like I said, some of the horror stories I heard with my wife and her son,
Mhm.
I'm like, really? I can't believe that, little things like uh, Adam is very, very smart and can do the tests, but with all the other kids around making the noises, it distracted him and he couldn't concentrate. So she said, well,
Oh,
can't he just wear headphones? And at the time they said, absolutely not. He can't do that. Well, now they allow kids to do that. So, that's what I was saying. I think it's getting better, but giving the kids the power to have these tools and the confidence that builds in them in going out into the world, I think has been missing for the last generation, unfortunately.
it has, and they need to know what their rights are. I'm so sorry for your wife that she didn't realize she could have gone into the school and said, okay, listen, he has a right to this, this, and this. And yes, you
Oh no,
can.
she did. They literally looked her in the face and said, "No, the board did. The board of education did."
Oh, well, yeah,
So
that's really hard. And then she has to go hire a lawyer and it gets very messy. So, it's amazing the things that still do go on, and it's amazing even today with all the awareness there is, all the services that are in schools, and there are schools that don't have the services that children need. It's amazing to me the things that I still hear from a parent that we have to go and fight for or ask for. Or even just bring up, hey, can we add this in? I mean, I just did it on Friday for my son. He just got some new evaluation OT wise, so I went in and sat down with his teachers, and we sat down and talked about, okay, this is what the findings were, and can we implement these in the classroom? And they were like, sure. But that's because I've been working, there. It's a
that's
good
nice.
school where he's at. Yeah. So it's a very small school, and that's on purpose for him, because I know that in a big, he'd be like, oh, he gets so lost. Yeah.
Right. And he'd be such a small number for them that they wouldn't have the time. I've got 40 other kids in this classroom. I can't look at the one.
Yeah.
And unfortunately,
I
that's what
know.
happens. And I'm not blaming the teachers at all. I think teachers have one of the hardest jobs in our country.
They do. And God love them. And thank you so much for the teachers that we do have.
Yeah.
And what a blessing that they're in the position they're in. And I know it's hard. I know it is. My mother was a teacher when before I was ever born. Um, but it's it's a it's a God journey, it's a special gift to be able to
It's a
work with
calling.
kids who need, yeah, it is a calling, and it's not for the faint of heart, and neither is parenting when we have children like this. Parenting is hard enough. This is like parenting on Red Bull.
Yeah, well, most of parenting, you don't realize it's not for the faint of heart until it's too late and it's past. And it's like, wow, I can't believe we made it through that.
I know. Yes, you're alive. I'm alive. We're talking. We're still
We
related to
succeeded.
each other. Yes, we succeeded. I know. I know. Oh, yes. My little guy says he's alive.
That's great. So, what type of feedback have you been getting from parents and teachers and readers of your books?
Well, it is so funny. A friend of mine he's a music producer. He sent me a picture the other day, and he said, "Look what I woke up to," and it's his little 2-year-old with my book saying, "Read." And so I was like, "Oh my gosh!" I was like, "Okay, I have to post this. You're okay with that, right?" It doesn't show his child's face, but you can see it's a child, and there's been lots of positive feedback about it, and I hope
Nice.
that will continue. And I hope to it's been hard because with COVID, for most of us authors, we've not been able to go into the schools and we've not been able to have events. And so I've taken a lot of what I'm doing to online and virtual. Like Saturday for our mental health expo, we actually did a couple of lives to take it out there, into the virtual world. Because we weren't allowed to have so many people come in. And like we Carson and I actually go the first Tuesday of every month. We go to our local library, who I actually have worked with them to put a parent resource area in the library. We have a whole sensory room for kids. We've made the library much more friendly for families to come in that did not come into the library. I felt like that was very important, and our library is so amazing. They were very, they were very helpful in, us working all that together. But we go in once a month, my son and I do, and we do a live video with the children's librarians, and it's either a science experiment or a craft, or we make stuff, and it's for kids of all challenges. And that goes out on their site, and then I send it out to different organizations that I know, because like I'm an ambassador advocate for Autism Tennessee, which is one of our local organizations in Nashville. So I send it to them, and they put it out to all their families. Just so it's something for the kids, and so I'm really trying to grow those kind of things, like the stuff that I do with my son. We do science experiments that are easy for children, even if they need to have help with them, but it allows them that freedom of experience and all of those sensations and sensory ways of learning. We try to kind of include everything. Um, but we also, sometimes I go into the therapy center where he goes, and we'll show some of the tools and things that are in there for kids and how they use them, why they use them, what's the science behind it, why is it important, how does this help your kid at home? Because you have a lot of folks who don't have, the insurance doesn't cover their services. And their
Right.
child is sitting here and needs them and can't get them, or they can't come into the school, and give their kids services they need.
It's not always these big elaborate things. You're doing little simple science experiments, and
Yes.
some of those kids probably remember that, and they probably want to repeat the same experiment 200 times,
Yes, like my
because they were
son.
so excited. Yeah, exactly. I get that.
Yeah, I know we talked.
My
Go ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay. my my oldest stepson has wanted to do a streaming gaming, like Twitch thing, like all the kids do. And when his brother with autism, they're only a couple years apart, when they're sitting down there playing games together, they just laugh and talk, and they do voices like Scooby Doo and stuff like that.
Oh,
And
fun.
we told them, we said, guys, stream yourselves doing that, and name the channel like Gaming with Autism, and just go down there and play games like you do the voices like you do. And but we can't get them to do that. And I'm like, but I think one, it'd be extremely successful, but two, show what other kids, maybe parents and kids where they're 3, 5, and where it's hard to communicate with a kid with autism and hard to get them to understand, and give them all hope, and look at what these guys are doing, and that kid has, or guy now, man, has
Yeah.
autism, and and I've tried to get them to do that, and it's so difficult. But little things like that can help so much. It
Oh yeah,
builds.
absolutely. Yeah, you just need to do it yourself. You just take the camera down there and you just videotape them and just you just do it. You do it. Let them start playing. Bring the camera in. You, yeah,
I
that's
love
what
that.
you do.
I will try and capture them at some point doing that. Maybe we'll just get them going. And, I think at first it might be a little awkward, but I think once they get rolling and forget the cameras there, because kids are used to it.
Oh yeah, we're raising a society of narcissists. What are we talking about? You know what I mean? It's like, hey, look, I'm brushing
Yes.
my teeth, I'm putting on my deodorant. Oh, look at my earrings today. I mean, it's just crazy. I'm brushing my hair, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I worry about the next generation because there's not a reality base in a lot of ways. Because a lot of them are living through the video and television, and I mean, we didn't have that growing up. I mean, I didn't. We went outside, we played all day. You used your
All day
imagination.
long.
Yes, you used your imagination. This thing on top of our body sits up here. There's a reason for it, and so it's like, and the instant things are off, and they're sitting around like, I'm bored. I'm bored. Well, go use your imagination and make up something. Make it up. You know.
See, that's the one focus I'm trying to do in the classrooms. I don't want to just go into an author visit. Oh, look, kids, I wrote a book. I want to
Right.
do a workshop for building their imagination, inspiring their imagination, and
Yes.
I've been working on that. So I totally agree with everything.
Oh, I love it. Well, if you do anything that you record, let me know and I'll share it because I'm so supportive. I was going to say to you, we should collaborate on something because we're very much, like-minded about kids, and I think it'd be really fun to do that. And when I go in and read, I do some games with the children, and one of them I do is I take a sticky post-it note and I have the kids I try to if they're able to write, which they should by the age that I'm going into, kindergarten, first, second, I am, and then some positive word, or you are, and some positive word. And so then we fold the papers up and we turn the music on and the papers get passed around. And then when the music stops, then one by one, everybody has to read what's been written about them. And it's really funny when a boy gets one that says, you are a princess, and then everybody laughs, and it's something cute, but it gets them start to think about those positive words. I'll have kids look at each other and find something positive about that person to say, even if you don't know them. I don't know, tell them their hair looks nice. Tell them you like the color of their shirt. It doesn't have to be, anything big, just even something small. We all want to be heard as human beings. Every one of us wants to be heard, and everyone wants to be, and I'm saying noticed, not in an egotistical vain way, but everyone wants to be acknowledged. That is a core thing for humans. And so if we can just allow children to feel that, to be heard, that's another thing that's really important, is to listen to our kids, even if we don't agree with them, like the teenager that wants to do something that they should not be doing, but they really want to do it. So let's listen to them first, see what they have to say, and then, yeah, let's talk about something that you could do as an alternative that's a lot better for you and more safe, you know
Right.
and you know and I mean, with my girls, they'll tell you, oh, my mom used this. I always use the one, if everyone is meeting at the bridge at 4 o'clock to jump off the bridge, what should you do? And I said it till it made them just mad, you know, because it was like,
And then did you call your mother and say, Mom, I'm sorry? I get
I've,
it.
I've done that a long time ago because there have been challenges with my oldest has been, I love her, and you have those kids who are so strong-willed, and you're like, gosh, this is going to serve you so well in life, but please let me survive you, I just got to survive you,
Right. Now,
unleash it on your
the
boss, unleash it on something else.
right, right. Now the games you play are based on your book, and I think that's
Yeah.
for any people listening, any parents interested in the books. There's an important lesson, especially at that age. Books are interactive. They're meant to be interactive, and it doesn't have to stop at the book. And doing those types of things it enforces it and builds upon it and actually puts it into practice. They get a much better understanding of how to use it in the world, rather than, because I think sometimes there's a disconnect with some kids that, yeah, I read about that, but how's that apply in the real world? I don't get that. I just read
Right.
about it. So I love that you do that.
Oh, thank you. And I also point out, the pictures are big because, of course, for babies need big faces and bright colors. The colors are super bright, and the font is large, so it's great first readers for any children who are learning to read. They can read to their siblings. So, those are all some things that I also try to point out. And the third book that just released, in the back of the book, I've written in there all about why affirmations are so important to me and how I've used them in my life with my own children. And then I give examples to help parents and families and caregivers get started with not only with their children or whoever they're taking care of, but also to do it for themselves, because I mean, we all have bad days, right? We all we all need to pick me up. Like, oh my gosh, I have to get out of bed today and I have to go forward. And, I'm not feeling so much inspired today. Well, we just got to, get up and we got to come up with those positive words. Because even if you're not feeling that way, you can motivate yourself to be able to do the things that you need or want to do, even if you're not feeling it 100%,
Agreed. Agreed. So, Mary Elizabeth, let me shift gears just a little bit. Who are some of the favorite authors and books that you've read?
Mm. Well, for my childhood or my adulthood?
Either or both.
Okay. I told you Dr. Seuss. I love Dr. Seuss and I love Harriet Potter and I love, okay, I'm drawing a blank right now and I'm not supposed to be drawing a blank. I'll tell you who I love recently is, Natalie Reeves Billings. She's out of England. Okay. And she's self-published and she took the pandemic just like Terry Shepard. I love Terry. And
I
both
just
of these,
talked to Terry.
I know we talked this morning, and I said,
Yeah,
"Hey," he said, "I'm opening for you," and I said,
yeah,
"You're a hard
yeah,
act to
yeah.
follow, buddy."
Yeah,
So
we got along great. He's wonderful.
oh, yeah. He's awesome. He actually is. I don't know if he told you he's audio recorded our Invisible book for us women. So he's reading
Oh, okay.
29. Yeah, I can't wait to hear it. He's got such a great voice. Um, and a man reading women's stories of trials, tribulations, and trauma and overcoming. We think that's amazing, because it brings everything together. But I love her books. You have to look her up. She's in England and she's brilliant in her writing. And I think they're making a series or a show or something out of the characters from her book. But she's teamed up with the school and, they've got so much going on she's on the same path I am to motivating and inspiring kids, so I really love her stuff. But there are so many great authors out there. And, I do always go back to Dr. Seuss, one, because Dr. Seuss was able to write from the viewpoint of a child. And that's where I like to be, is the viewpoint. I don't ever want to talk down to a kid or be looking, like a child feel like they're being talked down to, but talked to on the same level, you know? So I think that's super important. And we just got cut off.
About Dr. Seuss and why you like him.
Oh, yeah, just because, I mean, the books I've written, because I've already had the new book coming out. I've already had it beta read, and I've gotten some reviews on it already, and so at least people are catching that I'm trying to write, alongside the child or to the child or with the child, not down at the child. So, and especially in younger books, I mean, I'm living with a child, right? I've got an 8-year-old. So every day there are things that happen. I go, oh, there's a book. That's a story right there, and in that world of wonder and that world of curiosity, I just think is one of the coolest places in the whole world to be. I mean, I think it's amazing and it's beautiful, and the innocence of it, it's the only place in life where it happens, because then you grow up and the world comes in and that innocence is
Agreed.
no longer there, and it's really
And,
super special.
and that's interesting because one of the goals that I have in my mind is to help kids bring that wonder back to discover that wonder. And even their parents and the adults, that you don't have to lose it. It's still there. You just have to tap
No.
into
Yeah. So doesn't Dr. Seuss bring out the wonder in all of us? He brings
it.
out the
Absolutely.
kids, you know, so
Yeah.
he's one of my favorites. And so is, you know, all the Winnie the Pooh books. I mean, my girls both had, that was the theme for both my girls. And it was just that innocence, that beautiful, tender, sweet, kind, loving, just precious, you know, and I've always tried to hold on to that as long as possible, because the world comes in and sometimes the world is just not that nice,
I agree.
and then it's lost forever. So you know, I could kind of stay in a kid book all the time writing, you know. I
Yeah.
think it's so
Yeah.
much more fun.
Then there's Calvin and Hobbes, which kind of is a whole nother aspect of childhood and wonder. The fact that
Yeah.
he's talking to a tiger, but to the adults, it's just a stuffed animal. I mean, there's so much perfection in Calvin and Hobbes.
Right. Well, and then when you have your
Oh, did we lose you again?
young, huh? Are you there?
Yeah, there we are. So,
You know, when you have your child, that a lot of children on the spectrum, which I always think is amazing and beautiful, is is the fact that they don't always relate to the kids around them at their age. They usually
right.
are able to relate to adults. And so,
Yes.
you know, and it's so funny how many people, so Carson he was Pokemon obsessed for the longest time. He still slightly is. But it's amazing to me. He still loves Pokemon. Okay.
Got it.
So this is the peanut galleries over here.
Right.
So, but it's amazing how many places that we go and things that we do. And then there's an adult who, oh, I did Pokemon, and they'll do it with him. Like if I go to my chiropractor, his wife is still into it. So he'll go in the office and play with her on the Pokemon, you know? And I think it's so, you know, I watch my middle daughter she's so able to carry herself with adults, and not all 17-year-olds can do that. But she has a harder time with kids her age. But with adults, she's totally fine. And I just think that's amazing. I think it's
Yeah,
amazing.
I see that.
Yeah.
So, Mary Elizabeth, we've been talking about your books. I think we got a pretty good grasp on it, and we talked about some of your favorite authors. So, I mean, I think I know why everybody should go get your books, because it's needed in the world.
Well,
Any other good reasons to go get your books?
well, yes, please buy them and join our Poohlicious family, you know? Yes,
Right.
because it's coming from the heart. There's a purpose for them. You know, my intention is not to just write a book that's going to stick up on a shelf somewhere. It's got purpose, and it's got a reason to be here, and all of it's inspired, you know. So to me, when inspiration comes in, it's already got a life. And then we physically put it down, and then we put it out into the world, hoping that it will get into the hands of others and bring to them, if they need healing, if they need something to make them laugh or smile, if they need something to help with growth, you know, any number of reasons, you know. So please, yes, please go buy the books. And, you know, leave me a message on my website, you know, tell me stories about your kids, you know. So, I
That'd be
mean,
great.
yeah. So I would really love for people to join the journey that we're on, you know, in empowering
Right.
kids. That's just so important.
Yeah, agreed. Well, I love you sharing that with us today. Thank you on that.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Discovered Wordsmiths. Come back next week and listen to another author discuss the road they've traveled, and maybe, sometime in the near future, it might be you.